Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial at www.audibletrial.com/heroes, villains, and sidekicks. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Episode 33, Bug the Forager. This week on the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show, we'll be talking about a great character from Kirby's Fourth World. Now, he didn't really show up in a lot of issues, but he was a really cool and fun character that really captured the imaginations of people who read those two issues. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about Bug the Forager. And what I'm talking about as far as capturing imaginations, what else we're going to get to do on this episode is at the end, I'll be playing an interview that I had with creator Mike Allred, and we're going to be talking about his new Bug the Forager series that he is doing with his brother and his wife, and we're going to learn how this character sparked his imagination way back when he was a kid, and now he's actually working on that title for the Young Animals line. The interview is just really awesome. I'm really excited to bring it to you. So before we start the show, I want to remind everybody to head over to the site, heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com, and there you'll see that big yellow button right at the top of the page, and it's got a microphone on it, and what you can do is you can leave me a message and tell me who you'd like to hear about on the show. Somebody did that back for an episode, I believe it was Wild Dog, and we put that up, and it was really fun because we got to hear the listener. He asked about the character and why he wanted to hear about him. You can do that too. You can be on the show. Head over to the site, heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com. Leave a brief message who you'd like to hear and why. I'll put it at the beginning of the show, and then in one episode in the future, hopefully the near future, I've got a few written and ready to go. But then we will do a show on the character that you mentioned in your message. So head over to the site, heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com, to do that. And also, when you get a second, head over to iTunes and leave a review. You know, I know most of us are listening to our podcasts in the car or doing laundry, but, you know, if you're sitting at your desk and you have a second, please head over there. It would really help us sort of move up the rankings in iTunes and help more people learn about us. So just head over to iTunes and leave a quick message today. Okay, so let's learn about Forager. Now, Forager was created back in 1972 by the amazing Jack Kirby for DC Comics in the pages of New Gods, and he actually showed up in New Gods number 9, and of course, New Gods is part of Kirby's sprawling Fourth World series, and Bug was actually only in 2 issues. He was in issue 9 and 10. So when Kirby went to DC, he took a series that he'd been working on in his head for some time, and I'm sure in paper. This was the Fourth World, and the Fourth World was envisioned as an epic finite series that started with the titles Forever People, Mr. Miracle, and the New Gods. Just amazing, amazing titles. And these books focused on the battle between good and evil. And in that series, Kirby represented good by New Genesis, led by Highfather, and evil by Darkseid, ruler of Apocalypse. And again, these books are just amazing. You can get them in trades. You can find the single issues. They can get a little bit pricey, but they are well worth it to see this amazing Kirby art. And, you know, his imagination in coming up with this whole new world. Now, if we look at Forager, he was actually born on New Genesis, though he was born to a lower, what was considered on New Genesis, a lower class. And he was actually part of a sentient insectoid species that lived under the planet. Now, even though they were thought of as a lower species on New Genesis, they weren't. They were incredibly intelligent, they were curious, they were brave, and these insectoids were humanoid in appearance with some distinctive insect features such as large eyes and antennae. So we're not talking sort of about like bug people. Of course, if we look at Forager, he looks completely human, and we learn later on why he looks completely human. Now, this brings us to Forager, right? He was born and looked for all intents and purposes like a humanoid on New Genesis or from New Genesis. He had none of the characteristics of the bug class and therefore was seen, as a possible bridge between the insectoid class and the gods of New Genesis. And in the first appearance of New Gods number 9, it's even alluded that Forager might be more part of sort of the New Genesis class, the upper class, than the Insectoid class. All right, so what are some of the abilities of Bug? Now, being from New Genesis and possibly part God, Forager has a very long lifespan. He has superhuman strength and speed. He has expert fighting abilities, and he has, of course, being a bug, they give him some bug-like qualities. He has a superhuman leaping ability, so he can sort of leap tall buildings at a single bound. And now, in addition to his innate abilities, sort of these insectoid abilities, he also carries a range of tools that include, a shield, adhesive pads on his hands and feet so he can sort of do the Spider-Man and crawl up walls. And he has sort of these, and this is back in the New Gods, he has these sort of go-to weapon, which are acid pods, which allows him to shoot sort of a stream of burning acid at his enemies. So again, you can see how they're really using the angle of a bug. They're sort of finding the powers a bug might have, the weapons a bug might have, and they're giving it to a Forager. And now a word from our sponsor. So for you, the listeners of the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Now, again, head over there. You can download anything. I'm actually re-listening to, right now, Neil Gaiman's American Gods, which, is because I haven't got to watch the show yet. So I've read the book, God, ages ago. And now I don't have time to read it, so I'm actually listening to it in the car on my way to work. You can do that too for free if you head over to, and there's a special link for us, audibletrial.com/heroes, villains, and sidekick. Again, that's audibletrial.com, heroes, villains, and sidekicks. Head over there, get your free audiobook. Maybe it's going to be Neil Gaiman. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. There's tons of things over there you're going to love to listen to. Now back to the show. And in these 2 issues of New Gods, we don't get a lot of his background. We do see that, how he's treated by some of the members of New Genesis. I mean, especially Orion, who is, not very friendly towards him or his people. And, that's it. He sort of comes and goes in the episodes. He isn't in a lot of these, but he does come back, and we don't see him again until the 80s. And he actually shows up in the amazing, I just reread this, I forgot how good it was, the 1980s Cosmic Odyssey that was written by Jim Starlin and, believe it or not, drawn by Mike Mignola. That's right, Mike Mignola from Hellboy, doing this DC book. And it is just incredible. The art is amazing. And there are these 4 prestige books, and they are just beautiful. If you ever get a chance, try to pick them up. I'm not sure if they collect them in a trade. They probably do. Everything is collected in a trade. So take a look for those. Now, unfortunately, in this series, Forager, he meets his demise in sort of the final pages of the Prestige series. And he doesn't just go out, sometimes a minor character might go out, fairly without a lot of fanfare. But, in this series, Forager is actually killed when he is not only saving Batman's life, but he is saving pretty much the entire Earth and really the anti-life equation. So, Darkseid is setting these bombs off and destroying all these planets. And the last one is on Earth, of course. And Bug sacrifices his life to stop the detonation of that bomb. Therefore, he's killed in the explosion, but he saves pretty much the universe, saves Batman. And it's really interesting to see how Batman takes to this character because, again, they pick up the same sort of theme in Cosmic Odyssey where Orion is in this book, and he is just incredibly rude and bigoted towards Bug. And Batman will have none of that. And, Batman shouts down a god because he respects Bug so much. And we'll actually get a chance to talk with Mike about that in the interview. Now, the main reason I wanted to talk about Forager on the show is because I had seen that DC announced that there's going to be a new title featuring Bug in the Young Animals line. And I love the Young Animals line. And it's curated and looked after by Gerard Way, of course, the creator of the Umbrella Academy and lead singer on My Chemical Romance. And he is an incredible creator, and him at the helm of these young animal titles. There's Cave Carson as a cybernetic eye, Shade the Changing Girl, Doom Patrol, Mother Panic, and of course now this latest that's going to be Bug, The Adventures of Forager. And they just have this really fantastic Vertigo feel to them. And I just love all the titles. I get them all. I read them. They're the first things I read when they come in. So Bug, The Adventures of Forager was actually solicited back a couple months ago, and it is coming out today, May 10th. So if you head over to your store today, you can pick up a copy of Bug, The Adventures of Forager. And what we're going to do now is we're going to actually hear an interview that I had with Mike Allred, who has a serious love for this character going back to when he was a kid. And I can't wait to see how that translates into the pages of Bug, The Adventures of Forager. So again, go out today, take a look, buy that comic. Also, head over to the site. There's going to be images and some video of things that Mike has done. Of course, pages from Bug the Forager and A Cosmic Odyssey, so you can get a feel of these characters. But, without further ado, let's listen to my interview with Mike Allred. Now, the interview I did with Mike Allred, is fantastic. And not because I'm a fantastic interviewer, but because he is a fantastic guest. Now, he has worked on so many things. We're talking, you probably heard him on the iZombie episode. If you haven't, go check out the iZombie episode. But we're talking, Madman, Fantastic Four, of course, Bug the Forager now, Silver Surfer. His creative owned projects, tons and tons of projects. And again, just a great guy to take the time to do the interview with me. Now, the audio for the interview can get a little garbled every once in a while, and then it clears out. So please sort of, listen through it. There's just a little bit of garbliness in the beginning, and then it's sort of, like I said, it smooths out. And it's just a really fun interview with a great creator. I'm a huge Kirby fan, and of course you're now going to be working on Bug, The Adventures of Forager for the DC Young Animal title. Now, was this a character you were familiar with?
Oh, very much. Yeah, this is like a lifelong favorite. We used to take guitar lessons in downtown Roseburg, and my older brother and I, while waiting for our lessons, there's like a little waiting room, and this was James Ray was our guitar teacher, and he had comic books.
Yeah,
and New God Number 9 that was there, and we scrambled for it and just read it over and over and over again. That's where Bug was introduced.
That's funny.
In New God Number 9.
Yeah.
And eventually my brother Lee talked James Ray into giving it to him. And of course it was,
right at that point, right?
We even knew there was such a thing as a comic book store. So it was just kind of this magical thing that he had, and there was no other way to get it. So it was a treat to see there. And then, of course, it was a major score when Lee got it to bring it home.
Right.
But it's funny, the impact that this character made.
So, yeah, I think what you were saying was that he, the character was only in, 2 issues, right?
No, gosh, I don't know.
I'm trying to remember.
I think 3.
Yeah. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't like he was like a mainstay of the series.
No, not at all.
I read through the number 9 again the other day, and then I think I read 10. Yeah, I read 10, and then I lost track of it. So he might have been in 11.
So he was on his flash of number 10 again. So in 9, it's like the Bug, and there he is, and then New Gods in issue 10, and big bold letters, New Gods, and you see him leaping, and I always loved the energy of the character. Man, was it only 2? I thought for sure it was 3.
It might have been, but I am sort of just seeing it in my head.
Now I know it for my own credibility.
Now, you mentioned earlier Lee. Now, he's part of the creative team, and he's your brother, right?
Oh yeah.
So you guys get to go.
Bro.
Yeah, you guys get to go ahead. And what's it like now? The two of you getting to create your own stories for this character.
Like I said, it's this childhood dream come true. We had a similar experience with FF, where we just were given free rein to go nuts on this Fantastic Four Marvel book, and we just went crazy with it.
Yeah, that was so much fun. And did Laura, your wife, do the colors on that too? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very rare she doesn't color my work.
Yeah. It is so, her colors, when colors and the rendering work well with an artist, it just takes everything to a whole nother level, and her colors are just incredible with your work.
She's the best. I mean, I'm prejudiced, but I honestly, I love her.
Yeah.
In every way.
Right. That's funny. Yeah, it's got to be fun to be able to work with all your family on a title. And you guys are also going to be working on a Doom Patrol number 7 for Young Animals?
Yep. Well, Laura and I.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
With Gerard Way.
Oh, that is, I tell you, this whole Young Animal line, and I was a huge Vertigo reader, back when in its heyday, and there's still now the Vertigo imprint that's going on again. But these Young Animal titles, Cave Carson and Doom Patrol and Shade and all these books, they seem more like old school Vertigo to me.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, Gerard, who is pretty much running the show, this was a dream come true for him, and he is an old school Vertigo fan. I mean, he's spoke a lot about how, especially Grant Morrison's writing on Doom Patrol affected him, and so and then when you talk with Gerard, and you brainstorm and start throwing ideas around, you hear where he's coming from. So
right.
That's very much a consistent thing. But at the same, I mean, he likes all good comics, like we all do, and he hasn't limited us in any way or our approaches. He's been very supportive and enthusiastic, and it's been a blast. And then he and I shared this massive love for Doom Patrol, and me a little more with the Bruno Premiani stuff, where that was stuff that Lee had around. But most of my tastes revolve around what Lee had when I was growing up, and so it's the whole big brother, little brother thing. What he had was always the coolest stuff, and what I wanted to get my hands on. And,
right.
And so Bruno Premiani, because of that, was very much a huge influence on me subconsciously. It was years later when I rediscovered comics as an adult that I realized how much of an impact that Bruno Premiani had on me. So my affection for Doom Patrol stems from that, going into what then was done with Vertigo and Grant. And so because of that, Gerard has tailored this amazing issue that was pretty much just given me the opportunity to draw absolutely everything I'd want to draw, what you could jam into a single issue. So this year has just been like crazy in that way, just getting to do all of these things that I love so much.
Oh, I cannot wait to see that one. That's going to be that's going to be awesome, because that's, like I said, it's one of my when you mentioned Morris and stuff, I remember I read those until they were going out of style. It's really funny because you're mentioning this stuff like the Vertigo and the guitar lessons. For some reason, before I was even collecting, same thing. My grandmother, at her house, for some reason, there was a copy of Spider-Man that had Rocket Racer in it and Devil Dinosaur number 2. And I read Devil Dinosaur number 2 until the cover fell off.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It was like, where do these come from? Like, where do you get these?
Yeah. It's amazing, like the childhood affection you have for this kind of stuff. well, I had the first issue of Silver Surfer in size, with that just classic iconic straight at you pose. And we were allowed to take comic books to school, and I loved this comic book so much that I cut Silver Surfer off the cover and pasted it on my school notebook.
For Silver Surfer number one.
Yeah, so I'm not looking at it as a collectible or anything other than me just wanting that character to be with me at all times.
Yeah,
and that there's just kind of a pure affection that comes from that kind of stuff. Like, we were reading Devil Dinosaur number 2 over and over again. You're not when you're in that childhood pure mode of enthusiasm for it. You're not thinking about every time you read it, you're destroying it. Right. You're just indulging in it. And I revel in that kind of thing. I don't like to think about, its collector value or any of that. For me, it's just the pure love of a great comic book story and just wanting to just absorb it over and over and over again.
That's great. That's great. Now, speaking of these older characters, who else? I mean, I know you might not be able to tell me, but are we going to be seeing some different and other Kirby characters showing up in and other characters showing up inside Bug?
Oh man, yeah. There was the only directive we really got, or limitations that we got from anyone at DC, to make sure that we didn't use any other characters that would pull focus from Forager.
Make him the lead.
Yeah, and that was like exactly what we wanted to do. In fact, I was involved in Young Animal from the very beginning. This all started with Gerard and Shelley Blunt. Mm-hmm. And Shelley was actually the first editor I ever had. Oh. And Shelley was always trying to keep me involved in stuff that she had going on if my schedule could permit it. And Gerard and I had been trying to do stuff for years and talking about different things. And so Young Animal, it was a matter of when I would be able to. I absolutely wanted to do something. It was a question of what and when based on my schedule. And so as I was able to start clearing some time and using my spare time to get ahead, like, for instance, the first issue of Bug's completely done.
Nice.
So it's using all that extra time and becoming very much an efficiency expert concept that we came up with. I would always throw Bug in there. At one point, I had him as this intergalactic bus driver. I think it was our editor who said, why don't you just make a book on Bug? You clearly like this guy. And that became our formal proposal, and it just sailed. Everybody was just instantly in love with the idea of it, and the proposal art that I had went over well. So yeah, it's been nonstop ever since.
I cannot wait to see it. Just those pages and on Twitter and the things the little panels you're throwing out there. It just looks great. I can't wait.
Well, the feedback I'm getting, especially from Gerard and Jamie, and Jamie's been my editor on all my creator-owned stuff since Red Rocket 7. So since the mid to late 90s, Jamie has edited all my creator-owned stuff. And he and Gerard have both said that this is the looking thing they've ever seen from me. So I'd like to think that I'm always doing my best work, but they really think I've kind of kicked it up a notch here for some reason.
Well, I mean, you're channeling all that love from your childhood, memories of this character. It's got to be.
Yeah, that I am, but I also am with everything else I'm doing.
right. You're working, and now when is Bug? I just saw it in solicitation. So when is it going to be out?
May 10th.
May 10th. Okay. So May 10th. Well, I ordered my copy. Let's see. You're sitting down, you're drawing Bug. What has been, did you have a specific, you don't have to tell me the exacts of it. Did you have a specific panel where you sat back and you were like, wow, I'm drawing this. This is actually happening.
Well,
Or just a moment?
Actually, the first page.
Yeah.
The first page. In fact, the first panel. Lee wrote this, and it was in our proposal too, and just carried over exactly as we proposed it to the first page of the first issue. And it, in one page, it introduces you to the character, explains the sacrifice he made in the Cosmic Odyssey,
right,
and then immediately takes us into how he regenerates and is alive. So that first panel on that first page, in fact, it's the first thing that I posted on Twitter, I think, where you just see him with his mask pulled off.
Yeah, yeah.
That was it for me. It was like, we're doing this. This is really happening.
Oh, and I was following I follow you on Facebook, and I saw that Madman commission you were doing for somebody, and it made me want to remember to ask: do you have a original art dealer? Do you have a site people can go to?
Yeah. Well, is it the one where he's got the cartoony bullet holes in it?
Yeah.
That's not a commission.
Oh, okay.
That's actually a cover for a big fancy schmancy book coming from IDW.
Oh, I can't wait.
But yeah, my art guy is Simon Miller at gotsuperpowers.com.
Gotsuperpowers.com. Okay, I love original art, and I always want to try to add that in the show because I know people are out there looking for pages. And so I'm assuming Bug Pages will be there at some point?
Probably not.
Oh!
But I do commissions through him. He keeps a list for me.
Okay.
And so yeah, if you go to superpowers.com, tell him what you're hoping to see, and he contacts me to see if it's something I'd be interested in. And I've yet to turn anything down, so
okay.
I should say that. So the ideas have always been fun up to this point. And stuff I can get excited about. In fact, I posted, I started getting, before I went posting, because I feel like, I'm doing it for this person, so I didn't.
Right.
Now I found out that they want me to show what I'm doing for them. So I started posting a commission process. Like I just did an old school Doom Patrol, which is on Instagram.
Oh, I have to check it out.
But, yeah, I've been keeping all of my books together since FF, actually. So I still have all of my FF pages and all of my Silver Surfer pages, and I am planning on keeping all my Bug pages. But, yeah, so if people want Silver Surfer art or Bug art, they've just
do the commission.
Gone on the request list at gotsuperpowers.com.
Well, that's fantastic. All right, I'll make sure I'll put that a link to the site over there on the page.
And there are lots of pages on there. There's a lot of stuff that I put up that, like, I do a lot of covers. I do tons and tons. So I've made almost all of those available there. A handful of and covers. In fact, all of our kids, a Adam West Batman cover done by me, personalized to them, from Adam West.
Oh, so, that is cool.
Other than that, I list all of them.
So I can get it out there. I'll make sure I email you. Funny thing is, you mentioned something about Bug, where you read the old Kirby stuff, and you were like, Orion was a real jerk to Bug. I know I just switched topics really quick in my head. I just reread because I was finishing up writing the script for the cast, and so I reread Cosmic Odyssey, and he's an even bigger jerk to him there.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he's downright mean. I mean, because he calls him a bug and a jerk. I mean. And I had forgotten that
he's a bigot. Orion is a bigot.
Yeah. And I had forgotten that he gets teamed with Batman, and Batman just really takes a shine to him. Oh,
very much so. And the way the Cosmic Odyssey ends, I think is one of the most moving. And like I've explained why I love Bug since I was a kid. You know, it's amazing to me that so few pages were produced with this character, and Jack Kirby just kind of blew through them in 2 issues, and then, as we discussed, and then it just stuck with me. I always just loved the look and feel of this character. And then when the Cosmic Odyssey came out, I was like, there he is!
Right.
And it blew my mind, and it broke my heart. It was such a powerful ending, and also made me like Batman more, the way he stood up for him and stuff. And that last page is like the perfect. That was our thing. Like, what exactly happened with Bug's remains, and spoiler alert, and I think people that even a little bit like what we, the Cosmic Odyssey and New Gods as much as I do, even like just a little bit, I think they're gonna just go nuts for Bug, our new series. I'm so proud of it and having so much fun with it.
Well, and it's this character that it's also probably why like Batman, stuck up for him and just said that it was, here's an underdog. I mean, it's the typical, underdog who will do anything for anyone, no matter what they say about him. He's gonna do what he thinks is right.
Yeah,
and you got to love a character like that.
Yeah.
Well, I am definitely looking forward to that too. I've got the solicitations last month and this month, so I put both my orders in for issue 1 and 2. And what issue are you up to already? Or have you drawn already?
On Bug?
Yeah.
It's overlapping. So I have I've completed the first 4 covers. I'm starting drawing issue 3.
Wow. That is great. And then, and your wife, she's coloring in them, and she obviously that's all computer colored.
Not entirely.
No.
She came up with this. Process, which we in fact, we developed it during iZombie, where I'll draw and ink the pages traditionally, and I prefer inking with the brush. Dipping the brush in the ink and just old school slapping it on the paper.
Yeah.
And Laura then scans that. But then what she got the idea of, so like a colorist will typically do modeling and shading.
Yeah.
And I'm not completely colorblind. I have a color deficiency. I can't remember what I was diagnosed, but I have a hard time telling a lot of colors apart. So I can see and appreciate colors, but sometimes like a purple will look blue to me, or a red might be a green. Depending on what colors are next to it, it confuses my brain.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is I can learn a color. Like Laura can say, that color is this, and then my brain will learn it for that particular thing. So I can look at a poster or a book or whatever. If I've learned what those colors are, then my brain will register them. But if I see then something new and the color combinations confuse my brain again, I won't be able to tell those colors apart. And what that means is I'd be a very inefficient comic book colorist.
Yeah, it would take you a little bit of time.
But at the same time, I'm a bit of a control freak and want, the shading and whatnot to, be faithful to my intent. And for instance, one time I had a colorist color. It wasn't Laura, but they like over shaded it, over rendered the colors. So they were putting like shadows and planes. Like when you're doing a face, if you put a shadow, the colors can determine where a cheekbone is, for instance, or how thin or how wide a nose is. It's almost like colors can be very much a makeup artist. And this was over rendered and just made the characters not look like that I drew them.
Yeah.
And so that was just one questionable experience I had, but Laura remembered how that kind of affected me. I was like, I wish this and I wish that, and shouldn't have done this and should have done that. And so she's always been very sensitive to. She's very strong-willed, and she has a palette and a feel that she wants to put on the page, and can be very stubborn about it. But at the same time, she wants to know that what I had in mind is represented there too. Yeah, like the mood of the book, how dark a scene is, or how et cetera, and how colors can affect mood. But for years, we would just do the traditional, she scans it and colors it. And we're both fans of kind of classic, flat coloring, just old school, classic, timeless coloring. Yeah. But at the same time, we want to take advantage of what we have available to us with her on coloring on Photoshop. But she then got this idea that she could then scan the line art, give it back to me, and I could do an ink wash on the pages and do my own modeling and rendering. And so I can do watercolor washes. I can get in there with graphite pencils, anything, and do more rendering on the drawing. She can then scan that again, having kept the integrity of the line art, and have that in a separate channel, but have this new scan of the same artwork, but with all these new textures and details on it that she can then turn to any color she wants. Oh, that is interesting. Yeah, and I just love it because I feel like I have a sense of control, and I also feel that like the faithfulness of my art is continually enhanced, and it's all her technique. Yeah. I think it's wonderful, and then it has a color. It has kind of a handmade look to it at times. So you have your it's done on computer, obviously, with the colors, but you can see the traditional hand done classic art through the colors as well. My line art, of course, but also you will often see the texture of a pencil, or it. A lot of times the modeling looks like watercolor. I've always thought that the art and the colors in your book have I've been always using the word with people like a depth to them, and now I can understand why I can I've done coloring before for some for hi-fi and stuff, so I could always tell there was something else going on than just computer coloring, but I didn't realize what was happening. So I think that's really interesting. It's fascinating to hear about that. And there is some real intent there, because not even in the line art, like Will Eisner. Will Eisner was the first legend I ever met. We were in Germany at the time, and he was promoting this documentary called Comic Book Confidential. Oh yeah, I remember that. And we ran into him at a movie theater before a signing that was taking place. And because we spoke English, he got all excited and got, started interacting. This is before I had anything published, but I had some of my work with me, and he critiqued it. And then over the years it got published. We moved back to the States, and year after year we would see him, and he would keep track of my progress. And so I really, him and Alex Toth were real mentors to me. And, you'd learn little things like if you ink the figures with a brush and ink background objects with a pen, particularly, hard line, straight line, and architectural elements, that right there creates depth right then and there. And there's other techniques in the coloring that will do the same thing. And so we'll do stuff that you'll often get this depth of field when, with what we're doing. So it's always gratifying when somebody says the kind of thing that you just said, that there's kind of this depth there, and it's intentional. It's there are these learned techniques that will create these depths, and of course composition, and simple when you need to be simple, complicated when that's going to add as well. All of these things, just as you go through a career and develop, skills these are things that just become instinctual over time. And in our case, we're constantly trying to figure out how can we be better, even, more efficient, better illustrators, better colorists. And that's one of the passions for us. And one of the reasons why I think we're more prolific than we've ever been and doing fewer appearances than we've ever been, because we are so passionate about doing this stuff that we just love making comic books. And we are excited to, get this stuff out there in front of people and then see what we can do next.
And I was just going to actually ask you that. Are you going to be at any shows in the upcoming few months?
No. In fact, I think this will be our least traveled year ever. In fact, I think this is going to be the first year we have a real non-working vacation ever. I think the family's going to Hawaii.
Nice.
All this stuff gets planned outside of my knowledge. And then I'm pretty much told, hey, make sure you get this and this done, because at this time we're going here.
Right. Just look at the calendar and you know what's happening, right?
Yeah. So I'm constantly surrounded by family, and I'll hear talk about Disneyland and Hawaii and whatnot. And until plans solidify, I just don't waste any brain power in that. I'm like, you tell me where I need to be and I'll be there. So other than that, I don't think we're leaving Oregon at all this whole year, because the only show that we've committed to is Rose City Comic-Con, which is in Portland.
Yeah.
So this will like we've done European tours. One time we did a tour of New Zealand. Another time we toured Italy, like 5 stops in Italy. We're planning a European called a European tour only because there's the Lille Festival, Paris, but other than that, it's all the UK, because we're going to sign in Liverpool. We're going to Port Merion, where The Prisoner was filmed. The village in the 60s TV show.
I've always wanted to go there.
We're going to stay in the Rocky Horror Picture Show Hotel, which is now the Rocky Horror Picture Show Castle, which is where they filmed a lot of the Hammer horror films.
Yeah. Oh,
and that's now a hotel.
Those are great.
Yeah, that you can stay in that now is just amazing to me. So that's something I'm looking forward to, but I don't think that's this year. That might be this fall, but if not, then Portland is the only thing that we have locked down this year.
Well, that is great. Well, good. Stay at the easel and keep working on Bug.
It's my happy place.
There you go. Mike, I want to thank you again so much for talking to me about iZombie and Bug. It's been a real pleasure. I want to thank you again.
Well, thank you for your interest. Couldn't do without you.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Have a good rest of the night.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, I want to thank you for listening to another episode of the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show. I mean, that was a fun interview to do, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. So head over to the site to take a look at some of the new pages from Bug, The Adventures of Forager, and some old Kirby stuff. I've got some really fun stuff over on the site. And, of course, when you're there, leave a message and tell me who you'd like to hear on the show. And, of course, if you get a chance, please head over to iTunes and leave a review. All right, again, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with more. Take care.